Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone. Okay, I am Dr. Nur Hakimah Abdul Rahman, your chairperson for this session. Okay, so first of all, I would like to welcome again all the presenters and attendees to the third ICSTEM Conference 2021. Okay, so for everyone's attention, the presentation will take about 15 minutes, where 12 minutes is allocated for presentation and another 3 minutes for Q&A session. Okay, for Q&A, raise your hand by clicking the button to ask question, and the host will put you in queue. Okay, 10 minutes into the presentation, I will ring the bell once. 2 minutes after, I will ring the bell twice, and we will proceed to Q&A session. After 3 minutes Q&A session, I will ring the bell once, and we will proceed with the next presentation. So let's check first all the presenters for this session. Okay, we have 4 presenters for this evening. Okay, we have Mrs. Safinas. Mrs. Safinas, are you there? I think Mrs. Safinas with the name Eka Rohayu Yusuf, is it right? Okay, and next we have Mrs. Naim Nazira. Okay, and then we have Mrs. Siti Alifa.
Yes, I'm here.
Siti Alifa, all right. And then we have Mrs. Tang Iyun.
I'm here.
All right, okay. So all the presenter for this session already have in the line. So are you ready to start, or you want to wait until 3 p.m.? I think we can proceed to start. Yeah? All right. So before start, we have a simple a short video. Okay, a short video from our director of STEM Foundation Center. So let's watch the video first.
Assalamualaikum and hi to everyone. On behalf of the ICSTEM Foundation as the organizer, a warm welcome and selamat datang to all of you. Heartfelt gratitude is extended to all distinguished speakers and participants for coming and participating in this ICSTEM 2021. I sincerely hope that all of our effort in sharing and exchanging ideas throughout this conference will create and enhance public interest as well as awareness on the importance of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics known as STEM. It is hoped that everyone enjoyed this virtual conference under the new norm, and may you have a delightful and fruitful deliberation throughout the conference with us. With that note, I wish all of you happy conferencing and thank you.
Okay, that is Associate Professor Dr. Laili Cik Ros, the Director for STEM Foundation Center, UMT. Okay, so without further ado, I will call upon our first presenter, Mrs. Safinas binti Sulaiman from College Matrikulasi Johor, with the title of presentation is Z Will. Okay, please welcome.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to the members of the house. Okay, so I will share my PowerPoint. Okay, so my name is Safina Sulaiman. I'm representing my group Zeta Mind from College Matrikulasi Johor, and I will be presenting our innovation Z-Wheel. Okay, our group members, we are consist of 10 members altogether, come from different background. There are lecturers from science department and lecturers from social science department. So the Z wheel is basically consists of students from for science department and social science department to be used. So in KMJ, for the account students, they should take a business course. In business course, there are 3 calculation chapters, which is chapter 3, financial statements, chapter 4, time value of money, and chapter 5, capital budget. So for all these 3 chapters, there are lots of formulas to be remembered. So, and they have to know which formulas to be used accordingly. So arranging the notes in more engaging and systematic ways is a must in order to help students memorizing and applying the formula. So for the science students who take chemistry course, there are 10 chapters out of 13 in the second semester, whereas they are facing the same problems as account students. They have to memorize a number of chemical reactions and knowing when and how to use them in answering the questions. So just like account students, arranging the notes is a must for science students in order to help them memorizing and applying all chemical reaction, while at the same time understanding the concepts, particularly in chapter 9 in chemistry course. So for the problem statement, based on the observation from the social science department lecturers carried out during class, we have discovered that students have difficulties distinguishing between the different types of time value of money when trying to apply them in a question. Students also confuse between the 2 types of annuity. Students are unable to remember the correct formula when calculations are involved, so that students are unable to enjoy themselves when going through this chapter. Because for the chapter 4, time value of money, this question that were given to students is not a straightforward questions. It's a case questions. So students have to fully understand which type of time value of money and which formula to use for the specific questions. And for the science students, carried by lecturers from the science department, they found out that students have difficulties distinguishing between the different types of reaction in carbonyl compounds. Students often confuses on determining the product. Students are unable to remember all the reactions, and students are unable to enjoy themselves when going through this chapter. So same as facing by the account students. So therefore, our group come out with Z-Wheel Kit. This is an attractive game using only PowerPoint incorporated with interactive notes that can be reached using either online or offline approach. So for the first version, students were given Z-Wheel Kit with a hard copy notes. Because there are a very large number of students who wants to use the hard copy notes, so we come out to the second version with notes that can be reached online using any flip, and our Z-Wheel kit looks like this. When students were given, they will spin and they will pick which quadrant and questions to be answered. If the answer is right, they will have this notes, and if the answer is wrong, they will have notes that were given to tell them why the answer is wrong. So they can spin again to play again this game, this Z-Wheel kit over and over again until they can fully understand the concept of time value of money. accordingly, and the question will be upgraded by time to time according to the level of the students. So just like account students, the Z will keep for the science students, just like the account students, they have to spin, pick the quadrant, and the answer will be the question will be pop up, and notes is given whether if the question pick is right or wrong. So for the notes in online, it's look like this, the colored notes. So when the notes is colored, students it will be easier for them to understand and remember the notes. The notes consist of all the key points, the formulas, example of the questions, and how to solve the questions. So these notes can be reached out by students anytime. Okay, so we carry out this research consists of two different groups. For the group 1 is for the business course students, and the group 2 is for the chemistry students. So for the group 1 involves two cohorts, which is cohort 1 for the 2018-19 batch consists of 30 students. For the cohort 2 is 2019 and 20, another 30 students. For the group 2, for the chemistry course, cohort 1 is for 2019-2020, and for the cohort 2 is for students from 2020-2021, another 30 students. So we are giving the pre-test and the post-test. So the pre-test is before using the kit, and the post-test is after using the kit. A coursework test was used to measure the achievement, and the total marks for the paper is 100. After that, an interview with 4 students was carried out using the kit. A set of questionnaire with 6 Likert scale question was designed. So the results for the pre-post data analysis for the account students, for the batch 18-19, and for the batch 19-20. So the average mean was 46.20 for students from batch 19-18 and 48.52 for batch 19-20. This clearly illustrated a major difference in the average mean between the students pre-test and post-test. So for the interviews, for the 4 students, so student 1 said that he is able to understand TVM concept easier because they can use Z-wheel in his own phase and without disturbing the lecture. So they can use on the class or outside the class. And for the student 4, the game using PowerPoint is very user-friendly and can be played in various devices, meaning that the Z-Wheel kit, they can play either in the handphone, laptop, desktop, or tablet. So it is very user-friendly, and students can remember concept much better with the kit because they have online notes, which is from the AnyFlip, which has all different color for all different formulas to be remembered. So this is the results for the science students taking chemistry course. So we can see that the average mean was 51.168 for the students from batch 1920 and 59.68 from batch 2021 respectively. So this is also clearly illustrating a major difference in average mean between the students pre-test and post-test. So for the interviews results for the 4 students, students 1, he is able to understand reaction easier where I can refer to the mind map on my own. Me and my friends could use the Z-wheel together in a group. So Z-wheels can be used either personally, right, individually, or in a group where they can discuss with each other. So students can remember the concept much better in the game. The keywords are colorful and clear to understand. And the game using PowerPoint is very user-friendly, just like account students, because it can be used either in handphone, a laptop, a desktop, or a tablet. For the conclusion, the Z-Wheel Kit is a very useful innovation, which is a combination of learning techniques. Using Z-Wheel Kit can enhance students' performance compared to those who did not use the Z-Wheel Kit. And Z-Wheel Kit could be shared to other educational institutions like Form 6 students or students from the university in the year 1. And it would be better if the research could be carried out to a greater number of students from different institutions so that we can have a very solid proof that Z-Wheel is a very useful kit for students to understand time value of money and chemistry, especially for reaction, more better. Okay, this is achievement that has been achieved by our group in 2019. Okay, for 2020, and last one is my IPO that were given to our group using the Z-Wheel kit. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Safina binti Sulaiman. Any question from the floor?
Good evening, Madam Rahayu.
And then, yes,
Yeah, just want to ask you one question. Is that you have any literature review before you done this Z wheel?
and then,
Your reference before you do your Z wheel for the methodology to teach student
before,
accounting. Before before
I cannot hear it clearly.
yeah, is there any reference that you use to build the Z wheel?
To build the Z-Wheel,
Yeah. Because I saw that just now, you divide by 4 quadrants, isn't it?
yes,
Yes. Is that we can divide it into 8 quadrant or 16
yes, it
for the
could be
next simulation?
divided.
Because when I
Yes.
saw that, just look like a program, Brother Ipian recently.
So the 4 quadrant actually is representing the 4 types of time value of money.
Okay.
And the Z-Wheel, we build it according to students' level of study. I mean, for the student who is not very knowledgeable, we give very easy questions. And for the student who is very they have a very good knowledge, we give them a very hard question for them to
Understand.
answer. Yes.
Thank you. Very nice presentation and very nice. I mean the method that you use to teach a student. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, madam. How the long period that you spend to develop this kit?
No, not very long because we have our own questions. So every time we want to give to the students, we just simplify. We interchange the question because students who have answered the questions, they want a new questions. So as the time goes by, we will give the new question for the students. So it will be consist of different types of Ziwil kit.
Okay, thank you. Right, so another question from the floor? Okay, so it seems like there are no question anymore. So thank you so much once again, Mrs. Safinas binti Sulaiman, for the great presentation. All right. Okay, so now we go to the next presenter. Okay, we have Mrs. Naim Nazira binti Ahmad from College Matrikulasi Perak with the title of presentation is How to Unlocking the Online Stream Resiliency Innovation on Physics Lab Experiment. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon to
Right, so
everybody.
Mrs. Safinas, can you stop sharing
Yes,
first?
yes. I'm trying to stop this one.
It's okay.
Okay, I wait for Mr.
Okay.
Shafinas to stop first.
Have I stopped the presenting?
Yeah, stop. Stop
Okay.
presenting.
Okay.
I'm sharing again.
Jumpa tak?
Okay.
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 Okay. So,
Yeah, stop sharing.
share. Stop
Okay.
sharing. Yeah.
Itu starting to share. Stop.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Share. Okay. So, cancel.
Yeah.
Stop video. Okay, I've stopped. Already stopped.
Ini belum lagi ni. Okay, cancel.
Cancel it. Okay.
Cancel.
Okay. I've cancelled. Not yet.
Puan share screen eh?
No. I share. Cancel. Okay.
Cancel.
Yes.
Kami masih lagi nampak
Masih nampak.
screen Puan.
Okay. How am I going to stop this one? Okay, I cancel. Still not cancel. Can I leave and come back again? Okay, sorry. Okay, I put cancel. Okay, I click cancel. Okay. Cannot.
Saya rasa Puan tak stop sharing screen tu. Itu yang kami boleh nampak lagi tu.
Stop. Okay, saya stop. How am I going to stop viewing on screen? Stop video? No. Share. Okay, dah jumpa.
Okay.
Okay, finally. Okay, tak apa. Alright, so welcome Mrs. Naim Nazira for your turn.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to everybody. I had prepared the video, so I would like to present my video. So I share my screen right now. Okay. Hello, I'm PA. Hope you can have great time with PA.
Do you want to know how Lab on Point can help you in learning process outside the laboratory? Let's take a look.
Assalamualaikum and hello to all panels, chairperson and fellow presenter. I, Naim Nazira binti Ahmad, will present to you how to unlocking the online stream resiliency innovation on Physics Lab experiment.
The content of my presentation consists of introduction, problem statement, objectives, methodology, result and conclusion.
Being in laboratory and doing the experiment is an exciting experience. Here, students are able to apply and strengthen the science process skill to test and improve their understanding of the physics concept. Unfortunately, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck, classes had to be conducted online. Therefore, experiment on topic simple harmonic motion could not be done in laboratory. This situation has to be some extent disrupted the emotion, academic resilience and learning process to students. So, we offer virtual flexible manual Lab on Point to our students. Lab on Point is an Android app's virtual tool to guide students to fabricate and conduct the physics experiment of simple harmonic motion while monitor and improve students' stream academic resilience. Lab on Point offer a systematic and continuous guide for students to perform simple harmonic motion practical until they obtain results that meet the objective of the experiment. The apps is combining elements of science process skill, manipulative skills, and stream academic resilience. Therefore, I can say that our Lab on Point is an intervention form of learning psychology approaches that crosses the science curriculum. Here are the problems that have
Excuse me.
Any problem, Mrs. Naim?
Macam ada orang dah potong cross saya punya presentation.
Nasari masuk.
Okay. Okay. Saya continue balik ya. Saya continue balik ya.
Okay, so maybe Mrs. Naim can proceed your presentation.
able to attend the lab session. Second, students feel clueless and helpless because lack of resources and monitoring feedback. And third, they have low in academic resilience.
Based on the problem stated earlier, we had create Lab on Point as its objective, bring the lab to students, improve self-navigating learning skills, spark creativity among them, and enforce all four aspects of academic resilience.
A total of 108 students use Lab on Point to perform the simple harmonic motion experiment and write the experiment report. With Lab on Point, our students able to conduct the simple harmonic motion even not in the physics lab.
I'm PA. Hope you can have great time with PA.
Student lab
What an example application of simple motion?
Hello, I'm Mia,
Pendulum,
daughter of Manabu. Hope you can have great time with Mia.
Pre and post test using scale of protective factor SPF 24 questionnaire with 4 aspects of academic resilience: social skill, social support, goal efficiency, and planning priority behavior were used to assess academic resilience. The accuracy and percentage error of the experiment result also had been taken into account. Let's see what our students had said about Lab on Point. A t-test and pair sample t-test for the Academic Resilience SPF 24 questionnaire. From t-test, mean of post-test increased by 0.5058 compared to the mean of pre-test. By using pair sample t-test, there are significant difference for pre-test score and the post-test score based on the value of p equal to 0 less than 0.05. Therefore, there are significant increase in student resilience when they use Lab on Point. Finding from the average of 108 experimental results show that the accuracy is as high as 97.83% and the percentage error is as low as 2.17%. As for conclusion, Lab on Point allows students to conduct the experiment without the presence of educator. Therefore, students can explore the extent of their creativity and analytical thinking through multimedia, and it encourages their self-navigating learning skills. The apps is not simply as an information apps, but also as a new medium for helping educators monitoring the students and the process of science investigation become more efficient as well as their academic resilience. Implementing STREAM activities in Lab on Point able to produce quality students who can complete globally and mastering technological development. I really hope Lab on Point can be improved to friendly apps and to be used in various physics experiments in any educational institution with matriculation syllabus.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Naim Nasira, for your coloring, okay, for very colorful presentation. Okay, so any question from the floor?
Madam Naim, are you still there, Madam Naim? Madam Naim, are you still there? Okay. Just only one question that I want to ask you about. I see you have done the t-test. Is that did you use a correlation coefficient or any residual? I mean, the number of residual before you do t-test.
I think Mrs. Naim Nasira have connection problem ni. Dia tak dengar. I heard no sound, Mrs. Nasira. Anyone else? Can you hear me?
Dengar.
Zarifah dengar, Cik Lifah dengar. Okay. Right, so maybe sound problem with the Naim Nazira. So maybe Mr. Rodila, you can write the question on the chat box. Alright, so I think we can proceed to the next presenter. Okay, so alright, okay, so we have a question from Mr. Rodila to Mrs. Naim Nazira. Okay, is there any analysis that you done before t-test? So Mrs. Naim, you can write the answer on the chat box. Okay, I think Mrs. Naim, you can answer the question after this on the chat board. Alright, so I want to proceed to the next presenter. Okay, next presenter is Mrs. Siti Alifah binti Said Jalal from SMK Lembah Subang, Selangor, with the title of presentation is Enhancing Teaching and Learning Methods Through STEM Education. Please welcome.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so this is my study. Okay, we did a study on enhancing teaching and learning methods through STEM education. This study was done by me and the principal and also the senior assistant in my school, Mr. Bustang, and also Puan Nurihan Kasim. So we are from SMK Lembah Subang, Petaling Jaya. The background of the study is human capital development is the most important investment for a country's development. STEM jobs are in high demand as a result of fourth industrial revolution. However, studies have shown that students' interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, is decreasing, and our performance in PISA 2012 is not overwhelming. So, thus, the Malaysian Ministry of Education intends to increase the availability of skilled labour and experts in research and industry by strengthening the STEM education. The problem statement, okay, STEM education is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through integration and application in the real world context. And it can engage students by providing them with challenging, enjoyable, and meaningful activity. It is an important preparation for students to face challenges and can be face challenges and so that they can be globally competitive. STEM teaching and learning is a student-centered method that provides a meaningful and enjoyable learning experience. Okay, and in SMK Lembah Subang, we have already exposed our teachers to teaching training programs and also exposed our students to certain programs to strengthen the STEM education in our school. And this is to attract more students to participate in STEM activities at the school level through contextual, relevant, and mind-challenging activities. The research purpose is to investigate the effectiveness of STEM education, teaching and learning approach on students' performance in STEM subjects for SPM level in SMK Lembah Subang. The research objective is to measure the difference in percentage of students who pass in their physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and additional mathematics in SPM. It is also to measure the difference in students' average grade in their physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and additional mathematics in SPM. The significance of this study is to help to provide a school administrator information on training programs to improve the teachers' pedagogical content knowledge. And it also to instill a passion for learning or STEM inquiry in students through student-centered and engaging teaching and learning methods. It is also to develop school infrastructure and also complement STEM education's requirement. So there are several limitations to this study, where we have a limited face-to-face lesson due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The research was actually planned early of the year, and we didn't see that there will be an outbreak. So after the school was reopened, we somehow had difficulties in practicing collaborative learning effectively due to the strict COVID-19 SOP as well. And throughout the online teaching and learning, students did not have a proper device and internet service due to their economical background, family background. So we had low attendance during the online lessons. And teachers also had difficulties in monitoring the role of the students during the discussion because of the online learning, as teachers were also quite new with the online teaching and learning at that point, and there wasn't much exposure on how to actually monitor our students' work via online teaching. So finally, due to all these constraints, we are also unable to conduct a proper written examinations for the study, and hence that's why we took the SPM results instead. So the research method used was we provided teachers with workshop on science and mathematics inquiry-based learning techniques, namely IBSE and IBME. And then the study was conducted by comparing the difference between the SPM results in 2019 and 2020 in SMK Lembah Subang, so that this will be like a preliminary study for the future. And the results we have if you can see in table 1, is the percentage of students passing STEM subjects in SPM level. So here you can see that there's an increase in the percentage of passes, and there's a maintain of 100% passes for physics and biology. So chemistry also managed to get 100% passes. And in table 2, we have the students' average grade according to the STEM subject in SPM level, where we have each of these subjects actually has an increase in the average grade, and the most is from biology, followed by chemistry, additional mathematics, physics, and mathematics. The conclusion is overall, students' achievement increase in both quality and quantity. The increase in average grade reflects an increase in students achieving excellent grades and a decrease in low grades, whereas the increase in the passing percentage indicates that the decrease in students failing in the SPM examinations. However, because there was no specific test that can be performed, these results are only to be used to motivate teachers and students to continue striving for the success of STEM education practices. Okay, so there's a further suggestion for this study, which is like, since this study was unable to accurately measure the effectiveness of STEM education, future testing could be more specific. Future studies will have to be conducted with better, more specific testings. For instance, a study of students' interests following the implementation of STEM inquiry-based learning activities. And according to according to previous research, some recommendations include the organization of a professional training for STEM subject teachers, or perhaps the selection of excellent teachers as STEM icons in the school, and strengthening of engineering elements in teaching and learning, the effectiveness of STEM game-based learning, studies of teachers' competence in teaching STEM education, and teachers' challenges in STEM education practice. Okay, so with that, I end with STEM for Life, and thank you very much.
All right, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Siti Alifa, for the great presentation. All right, so first of all, we have question, okay, in chat box, okay, from Umi Mansur. Okay, the question is, when your research mentioned low attendance during online classes, can you provide average percentage of attendance that the research categorized as low?
When we're looking at my study, it was on the science class, so that was one class only in our school, and we have only 10 students. But however, the maximum that we can ever reach was 7. And at times there will be less students, and there are times when we have 3 students only attending the online classes. Ada orang cakap ke? Is that answering your question?
Biology
10 people.
To produce excellent science, technology, and education with academic achievement in biology is essential, as biology is one of the important disciplines in science, technology, and education. For students in the biological science stream on by their ratio of ICSTEM, achieving excellent results every examination, including the biology subject, examination is highly desirable. It is one of the important items to the evaluation of faculty and biology paper, where the percentage of marks allocated for each item for each and biology paper is high at management. So it is important for students to answer the items well, get a high overall mark score. However, as a public study teacher, I found that students did not answer the questions well, and the marks are failing while answering the questions throughout the learning cycle are open. Based on this multi-class evaluation results, the PhD grade clearly shows that these students have trouble answering the essay question well. This scale provide important advance answering essay questions and be able to remember important advance views.
Is it Ms. Zaima?
And using inaccurate terms in their essay.
Ms. Zaima?
I came out with an innovative learning method called one-shot project.
Mr. Rudy, you have to mute Ms. Zaima.
Performance in writing biology.
I thought she want to ask question to Mr. Siti Alifa. Right.
Assalamualaikum, Madam Siti. Can you hear me?
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah. For how long that you take for the research? I mean the time, because I think it's quite difficult to make sure the student answer all the question. For how long you looking for that?
Actually,
this is very good. I mean, good research for us to prepare the student for the future for the multiple skill.
Yeah. Since we weren't able to conduct a proper testing, so
Okay.
to be honest, we don't have a proper contact hours with our participant in a consistent time. So we weren't really able to conclude that the conclusion that we get was 100% based on the intervention that we did. But somehow it is to just motivate the teachers that because our school doesn't perform well in the STEM subjects in previous years. And
Okay.
actually, to be honest, last year's batch was 10 students. The previous batch was 7 only. So they have this pride. The teachers and the students are afraid of allowing students to explore in STEM. But as I'm actually quite new in the school and I don't believe in such things. So I'm trying to make a change where the school is brave enough to try and allow students to actually participate in STEM. In previous years, they don't usually allow the students to enter the STEM classes
Okay.
if they don't do too well previously. But I'm trying to change that. So this is when they actually score better this year. There's an increase in the results. So we are trying to gain more students to participate in the STEM classes. And so currently our Form 5, we have 17 students. And as for the Form 4s, we have 20 students. So we're trying to increase the numbers of students participating in the STEM classes and hoping that the change where the stigma of students not performing in STEMs will go away, because it is important that students actually be more involved and exposed to STEM rather than not.
Yeah. Because when I saw the result, yeah, for
That
me
is actually
it's
the
very
STEM results. So yeah.
for me it's very good and quite. I really appreciate what you have done to the student, how you attract the student, how you develop their skill, their motivation. Good. I really appreciate it, madam.
Yes.
All the best for the future.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Alright, so another question from the floor? Okay, so it seems like there are no question anymore. So to Mrs. Siti Alifa. So thanks again, Siti Alifa binti Said Halal, for the nice presentation. Okay, so we go to the last presenter for today. Okay, so please welcome Mrs. Tang Inyun from College Matrikulasi Selangor. With the title of presentation is Problem-Based Learning in Organic Chemistry Laboratory Class. Please welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Noor Hakima. So, may I present I already prepared a video presentation. So, may I present my video now?
Okay, yeah, proceed.
Okay, thank you. I'm Tang Yi, a representative from the group with the ID number DB195, is here to present the study of my group with the title Problem-Based Learning in Organic Chemistry Laboratory Class. My group consists of 2 members, Madam Cha Chu-Hin and I. Both of us are from the Selangor Matriculations College. Here is the list of contents of my presentations. First, I will introduce about the study. Second, the problem statements of the study. Third, the objective of the study. Fourth, methodology. Fifth, the results and discussion. Sixth, conclusion. 7, the limitations of the study. 8, the references. And lastly, the acknowledgement. First, the introduction. Problem-based learning (PBL) is an element of the inquiry-based learning, which is highlighted in the Malaysia Education's Blueprint 2013 to 2025. Studies show that the PBL approach could produce more positive students' outcomes in terms of better concept mastery, collaborative skills, self-directed motivations, and create more desirable classroom learning atmosphere. Due to this, many higher education institutions, particularly the medical and engineering schools in Malaysia, have employed the PBL approach in their courses. However, the PBL approach is not yet being used in the Matriculations College Organic chemistry laboratory class. The conventional matriculations laboratory class is divided into 3 sessions: pre-laboratory class, laboratory class, and post-laboratory class. Usually, the classes were very passive, with teacher dominating the discussions in the pre and post-laboratory classes, and students work on the experiments based on the lab manual given in the laboratory class. Second, the problem statement. So far, there is no study on the PBL approach in the matriculations organic chemistry laboratory class. The PBL structured laboratory class could possibly help students to make better progress in science process skills and create more positive classroom atmosphere. Therefore, a PBL structured laboratory class was constructed in this study. Third is the objective of this study. The main objective of this study was to determine the potential of PBL implementations in matriculations of organic chemistry laboratory class. For this, we compare students' progress in their science process skills in the PBL structured and conventional laboratory classes and investigated the overall classroom environment in the PBL structured laboratory class. So we look at the methodology used in this study. To conduct this study, 15 students were selected to evaluate student science process skills. A descriptive rubric consisted of 8 science process skills was constructed. The science process skills chose were the skills proposed by Johnson and Bennett. Then, 2 organic chemistry
Sorry, Mrs. Tang.
classes
I think your connection is not stable now.
For hydrocarbon laboratory class, the conventional teaching approach was employed. While for the carbonyl compounds laboratory class, the PBL approach was employed. Interview with teachers was conducted after each class, and they collected
Mrs. Tang, you already stopped the sharing, but we still heard the video.
For each skill were outlined in this table, and students were assessed accordingly based on the criteria set for each skill.
Yeah.
Okay, I think your connection is not stable, so I think maybe host can share your
Can you
video.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hear you. Okay,
No,
I think your
post the
connection
video.
is not stable
I
now.
already post the video. Okay, I already
Share the
my
video.
video.
So can I replay the video? Like the host to replay the video, right?
Dr. Nur Hakima, what should I do now? Is the host sharing my video?
No need. So apa host will share your video.
I'm Tang Yiyun, a representative from the group with the ID number BP195 is here to present the study of my group with the title Problem-Based Learning in the Organic Chemistry Laboratory class. My group consists of 2 members, Madam Cha Chuping and I. Both of us are from the Selangor Matriculations College. Here is the list of content of my presentations. First, I will introduce about the study. Second, the problem statements of this study. Third, the objective of the study. Fourth, methodology. Fifth, the results and discussion. Sixth, conclusion. 7, the limitations of this study. 8, the references. And lastly, the acknowledgement. First, the introduction. Problem-based learning (PBL) is an element of the inquiry-based learning, which is highlighted in the Malaysia Education's Blueprint 2013 to 2025. Studies show that the PBL approach could produce more positive students' outcomes in terms of better concept mastery, collaborative skills, self-directed motivations, and create more desirable classroom learning atmosphere. Due to this, many higher education institutions, particularly the medical and engineering schools in Malaysia, have employed the PBL approach in their courses. However, the PBL approach is not yet being used in the Matriculations College Organic Chemistry Laboratory class. The conventional Matriculations Laboratory class is divided into 3 sessions: pre-laboratory class, laboratory class, and post-laboratory class. Usually, the classes were very passive, with teacher dominating the discussions in the pre- and post-laboratory classes, and students work on the experiments based on the lab manual given in the laboratory class. Second, the problem statement. So far, there is no study on the PBL approach in the Matriculations Organic Chemistry Laboratory class. The PBL structured laboratory class could possibly help students to make better progress in science process skills and create more positive classroom atmosphere. Therefore, a PBL structured laboratory class was constructed in this study. Third is the objective of this study. The main objective of this study was to determine the potential of PBL implementations in Matriculations Organic Chemistry Laboratory class. For this, we compare students' progress in their science process skills in the PBL structured and conventional laboratory classes and investigated the overall classroom environment in the PBL structured laboratory class. Fourth, we look at the methodology we used in this study. To conduct this study, 15 students were selected. To evaluate students' science process skills, a descriptive rubric consisted of 8 science process skills was constructed. The science process skills chose were the skills proposed by Johnston and Bennett. Then, 2 organic chemistry laboratory classes were conducted. For hydrocarbon laboratory class, the conventional teaching approach was employed, while for the carbonyl compounds laboratory class, the PBL approach was employed. Interview with teacher was conducted after each class. An open-ended questionnaire was given to students to get their feedback on the PBL class. Data collected for science process skills were processed using Microsoft Excel, and the interview and open-ended questionnaire data were analyzed using the naturalistic inquiry technique. There were 8 science process skills from Johnston and Bennett which were chosen and used to assess the students. These included manipulations, lab know-how, observation and data collection, experiment design, interpretations of observations, problem-solving, teamwork and communications and presentation. Criteria of 3-score level 0, 1 and 2 for each skill were outlined in this table, and students were assessed accordingly based on the criteria set for each skill. To determine students' science process skills in the conventional laboratory class, the hydrocarbons experiments was conducted using the conventional teaching approach, where a teacher had discussions with students in the pre-lab session and students prepared their jotted book before the experiment. Then during the laboratory class, students conducted the chemical test and teacher assessed students' science process skills based on the descriptive rubrics. In the post-lab session, teacher had discussions with students and students wrote their lab report, with teacher then assessed their communications and presentation skills based on their lab reports. Teacher was then be interviewed to get feedback on students' overall performance in the hydrocarbon practical class. These were the learning outcomes for the hydrocarbon experiment. Basically, students were expected to differentiate alkane from alkene and arenes using 2 chemical tests, the bromine test and the Bayes test. A photo here shows a group of students conducting the hydrocarbons experiment based on the lab manual. To determine students' science process skills in the PBL laboratory class, the carbonyl compounds experiments was conducted using the PBL approach. In the pre-lab session, students had group discussions to plan which chemical tests should be conducted to determine the compounds. Then, during the laboratory class, students conducted the chemical test based on what they had planned. And teacher assessed students' science process skills based on the descriptive rubrics. In the post-lab session, students presented their findings and discussed their findings in a video and uploaded the video to the YouTube for the teacher to assess their communications and presentation skills. Teacher was then being interviewed to get feedback on students' overall performance in the carbonyl compounds practical class, and 2 open-ended questionnaires were administered to students to get their feedback on the oral presentation and overall PBL class. For carbonyl compounds experiment, students were expected to be able to differentiate a carbonyl compound from others.
aldehydes from ketone using different chemical tests. This included Brady's test, Fernling test, tolerance test, shift test, and iodoform test. To conduct the PBL structured lab, the carbonyl compound experiment was modified and a probe was constructed aligned with the learning outcomes of the carbonyl compounds experiment. A probe was constructed based on the existing carbonyl compounds experiment to avoid time and resources constraint issues pointed out by Kelly. Photos here show students conducting the chemical test to identify the compounds in the carbonyl compounds laboratory class and a YouTube video playlist with videos of students presenting and discussing their findings in group. To get students' feedback on the PBL implementation, particularly on the oral communicating and presenting skills, an open-ended questionnaire consisted of 3 statements was constructed. Students were asked to describe challenges they faced when planning, conducting the experiment, and communicating their findings in the PBL class, whether oral presentation helped to reinforce their understanding on the chemical test, and whether they agreed oral presentation should be used as an alternative assessment method. To get feedback on overall atmosphere of the PBL class, another open-ended questionnaire with 6 statements was constructed. The statements were constructed based on the study of Ferreira on the learning environment of PBL class. Students were asked to describe their experience in the PBL lab class and how does it differ from the conventional lab class. Does the problem given in the PBL class motivate them to seek for solutions before conducting the experiment? Does the problem encourage them to discuss the experiments with friends before conducting the experiment? Does the PBL approach make them more confident in conducting the experiment? Does confidence in conducting the experiment initiated from their initiative that they take by reading or having discussions with friends before the experiment? And do they enjoy the PBL practical class and describe their feelings? All the data from the open-ended questionnaire were analyzed using the naturalistic inquiry technique. The 5th part of my presentation is on results and discussions. By comparing the mean scores of science process skills in the conventional and PBL structured classes, we could see that the students made a better progress by 18.75% in the PBL structured laboratory class. This was mainly because the PBL approach helped to stimulate students to actively seeking solutions for the problem using their prior knowledge independently and with their peers during the pre-laboratory sections. This allowed them to be more ready and perform better in the laboratory class. When comparing the scores of each science process skills, we could see that the students in the PBL class performed better in manipulations, lab know-how, interpretations of observations, and problem solving than in the conventional laboratory class. Those students in the PBL laboratory class achieve higher performance in problem-solving skills than in the conventional laboratory class. Students' performance for this skill was still lower compared to other science process skills. This demonstrated the possibility of some difficulties of knowledge transfer in students to make sensible connections between their knowledge and findings and to suggest the best solutions for the problems as mentioned by Ferreira and Choi in their studies respectively. Students had the lowest achievement in the communications and presentation skills, with the PBL structured laboratory class recorded slightly lower performance than the conventional laboratory class. The students in the PBL laboratory class were lacking experience to work collaboratively with peers to communicate and present their results orally using video recording method. Ferreira reported that initially, students might struggle in the PBL laboratory class due to insufficient experience to work cooperatively with friends, but majority would prefer PBL laboratory class after some time as they realized that they could gain more valuable experience in the PBL class than the conventional laboratory class. Teacher responded in the interview saying that the students were less ready cognitively and conceptually in the conventional laboratory class, as many still came forward during the laboratory class to ask what should do and how to perform certain steps, though lab manuals were provided to them. In the PBL class, the students were more aware what should be done and could even skip some unnecessary chemical tests to identify the compounds. This implied that the problem constructed in the PBL class could initiate and motivate students to learn independently and collaboratively before the laboratory class and therefore allowed them to be more ready to work for solutions in the laboratory class. From the open-ended questionnaire data, students concur that oral presentations in the PBL class could help to reinforce their understanding on chemical tests and should be used as an alternative to written report as the laboratory assessment. Though time management skill was not being assessed in this study, a student responded that in the PBL class, they were also being trained to manage time well, and time management was indeed the most challenging aspect he and his friends encountered in the PBL class. When giving feedback on classroom atmosphere in the PBL class, students commented that they had more fun throughout the learning process in the PBL class because they could learn collaboratively with their peers. Ferreira mentioned that in the PBL class, collaborative learning encourages learning because it makes students feel more secure in voicing out their ideas and suggestions. PBL also allows students to have greater grasp of a subject matter with better concept retention, as a student commented that the PBL class to be insightful, and another student commented similarly by stating that the PBL approach helps her to remember chemistry process more easily. A student wrote that PBL is more realistic, as a real-world problem exposure in the PBL allows students to develop better understanding of a concept and to learn to develop solutions accordingly for a problem. In conclusion, students had a better progress in science process skills in the PBL structured carbonyl compounds laboratory class than the conventional hydrocarbon laboratory class. The PBL structured carbonyl compounds laboratory class also had more positive learning environment where students had more excitement and motivations to learn independently and collaboratively, which allowed them to have more meaningful and deeper understanding of the chemistry concept. Therefore, the PBL approach could possibly be used in the matriculations carbonyl compounds laboratory class to promote better progress of science process skills in students and to create more positive learning environment and experience for students. As this study only conducted once with 15 students, therefore it is still not enough data to conclude whether the implementations of PBL approach in the organic chemistry matriculations laboratory class could improve students' science process skills in the long term. Though this study showed that oral communications and presentations could be used as another method of laboratory assessment, the data is still insufficient to determine whether the oral communications and presentation could substitute the written lab report as the alternative method for laboratory assessment. This is the main list of references we use in this study.
Lastly, I would like to thank Ministry of Education Malaysia for funding our participations in ICSTEM, Selangor Matriculations College for supporting our study, SlideScore and FreePeak for free PowerPoint templates, and all for listening to my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Tang Iyun. So, any question from the audience? Or maybe someone can type the question on the chat box.
If anyone have any question.
Okay, so it's okay, Mrs. Tang. So Mrs. Tang said
Dr.
that
Hakima?
she can't hear me. So I think internet problem.
Dr.
From Mrs.
Hakima?
Tang. Yeah. Okay, I can hear you, Mrs. Tang.
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Mrs. Tang, are you hear me? Okay, so I think there are no more questions from the floor. So before we ended this session, okay, so I want everyone to on your camera for photography session. Okay, I will count 1, 2, 3. So everyone ready? Okay, technical ready? All right, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, and one more. 1, 2. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so hopefully everyone can on your camera. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. All right, okay, so thank you so much to all the presenter, to all the attendees, okay, for your time for this session. So after this, we have another plenary session on the ballroom. Okay, so everyone, you can move to ballroom. And before I forgot, okay, so don't forget to fill in the attendance form, okay, in chat box. Okay, we have link in chat box for attendance, and also we have evaluation form. Okay, evaluation form. So hopefully everyone can fill in the form. Okay, so I think that's all for this session. So thank you so much. See you again tomorrow in another session. Okay, so thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.